I'm 32 years old, and I've been married to my husband, Tom, 35, for 7 years. We met in college, became friends, and started dating in our senior year. Tom was always the adventurous one, while I was more of a homebody. I thought we balanced each other out perfectly. He'd encourage me to step out of my comfort zone, and I'd provide the stability he needed to pursue his dreams. When we got married, we talked about traveling the world together. Thailand was always at the top of our list. We'd spend hours planning our dream trip, imagining ourselves exploring ancient temples, lounging on pristine beaches, and immersing ourselves in the vibrant culture. For the past year, I've been secretly planning a surprise trip to Thailand for Tom's 35th birthday. I wanted to make it extra special, so I worked overtime, picked up freelance gigs, and even sold some of my jewelry to afford this 2-week vacation. I researched the best places to visit, booked beautiful hotels, and even arranged for a private cooking class in Bangkok. I was so excited to finally make our shared dream a reality. Last month, on Tom's birthday, I finally revealed the surprise. I handed him an envelope containing the itinerary, plane tickets, and hotel reservations. I'll never forget the look on his face when he opened it. At first, his eyes lit up with excitement as he looked through the papers. But then, his expression changed in a way I'd never seen before. He looked at me and said, "This is amazing, but I think I want to go alone." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I asked him what he meant, and he explained that he'd been feeling stressed lately and thought a solo trip would help him find himself. He said he needed time to reflect and that having me there might distract him from that. I was hurt beyond words. I'd put so much effort into planning this trip for us, and now he wanted to go alone? We argued about it for hours. I told him how I'd been looking forward to experiencing Thailand together, how I'd saved for months to make this happen. I reminded him of all our late-night conversations about the places we'd visit and the things we'd do together. He said he appreciated the gesture, but really felt he needed this time alone. In the end, I gave in. I told him I understood, even though I didn't, and that he should go alone if that's what he really wanted. I even managed to smile and act supportive, even though inside I was completely crushed. So, Tom left for Thailand last week. He's due to return in a few days. I've been home alone, feeling a whirlwind of emotions. Part of me is angry that he'd be so selfish. Another part is worried about our relationship, and yet another part feels guilty for not being more understanding of his needs. I've tried to keep busy while he's gone. I've been catching up with friends, working on some home improvement projects, and trying to distract myself. But every time I see a commercial for a tropical vacation or hear someone mention Thailand, I feel a sharp pain in my chest. Tom and I have texted a few times while he's been away, but the conversations have been brief and superficial. He sends the occasional photo of a temple or a beach, but there's no warmth in his messages. It's like he's sending postcards to an acquaintance, not his wife. I can't help but wonder if there's more to this solo trip than he's letting on. Am I overreacting? Should I be worried? I keep telling myself that when he gets back, we'll talk it out and everything will be fine. But there's a nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach that something's not right. As I sit here in our empty house, I can't help but replay every conversation we've had over the past few months, looking for signs that something was wrong. Was he distant before? Did I miss some crucial clue? Or am I just being paranoid? I've tried talking to my friends about this, but they all say I'm overreacting. They tell me it's healthy for couples to spend time apart and that I should be glad Tom is taking time for self-reflection. Maybe they're right, but it doesn't make the hurt go away. I find myself staring at our wedding photos, particularly the ones with the Thai-themed decorations. They feel like a cruel joke now. I remember how excited we were, planning our life together, dreaming of the places we'd go. Now I'm left wondering if those dreams meant as much to Tom as they did to me. I've been trying to keep myself occupied, but it's hard. I've started a journal to process my feelings, but every entry seems to end with questions I can't answer. Is our marriage in trouble? Has Tom fallen out of love with me? Did I do something wrong? I've even found myself going through old text messages and emails, looking for any sign that Tom was unhappy or drifting away. But everything seems normal. We were planning date nights, talking about starting a family, discussing our future. How did we go from that to him wanting to take our dream vacation alone? The house feels so empty without him. I find myself avoiding certain rooms, his office where we used to sit and plan our travels, or the living room where we'd curl up and watch travel documentaries about Thailand. Even cooking has become a chore, as it reminds me of all the Thai recipes we wanted to try together. I've thought about calling him, asking him to come home early, but I don't want to seem needy or controlling. I keep telling myself that this is just a phase, that he'll come back refreshed and everything will go back to normal. But what if it doesn't? I know relationships have ups and downs, and maybe this is just a bump in the road. But it feels like more than that. It feels like a turning point, and I'm terrified of where we might be heading. Part of me wonders if I should have insisted on going with him. Maybe if I had put my foot down, told him how much this meant to me, things would be different. But another part of me feels like if I had to convince him to want me there, what would be the point? I'm trying to stay positive, to believe that this is just a temporary setback in our relationship. But with each passing day, it gets harder. I find myself jumping every time my phone buzzes, hoping it's Tom with a message saying he misses me and can't wait to come home. But those messages never come. So, Reddit, what do you think? Am I overreacting to my husband wanting a solo trip? Should I be worried about our relationship? How do I approach this when he gets back? Any advice would be appreciated because right now, I feel lost and alone. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I wish I had better news to share. Tom returned from his trip to Thailand 5 days ago, and things have only gotten worse. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare that I can't wake up from. When I picked him up from the airport, I was a bundle of nerves and excitement. I'd spent hours getting ready, wanting to look my best for him. I even made a welcome home sign, thinking it might break the ice and show him I wasn't upset about the solo trip anymore. I rehearsed what I would say, imagining us hugging tightly and all the tension melting away. But from the moment he walked through the arrival gates, I knew something was terribly wrong. He barely looked at me as he wheeled his luggage towards the car. When I tried to hug him, he gave me an awkward pat on the back, like I was some distant relative he was obligated to greet. My heart sank as I realized my imagined reunion was far from reality. The drive home was excruciating. I tried to start conversations, asking about his trip, the places he'd seen, the food he'd eaten. His responses were monosyllabic at best. He looked out the window most of the time, seemingly lost in thought. I found myself filling the silence with nervous chatter, talking about anything and everything just to avoid the deafening quiet. At home, things didn't improve. Tom unpacked quickly and said he was jet-lagged. He went to bed early that night, leaving me alone in the living room, staring. At the Thai souvenirs he'd brought back, a small wooden elephant and a bag of spices. Somehow, these trinkets felt like a mockery of the trip we were supposed to take together. I sat there for hours, turning the wooden elephant over in my hands, wondering how something so small could represent such a huge chasm in our relationship. Over the next few days, I tried everything to reconnect with him. I cooked his favorite meals, suggested we watch movies together, even tried to initiate intimacy. But Tom remained distant. He spent most of his time in his home office, saying he had work to catch up on. When we did share a space, it felt like we were strangers. The easy companionship we once had was gone, replaced by an awkward tension that seemed to fill every room. One night, I decided to make a last-ditch effort. I dressed up in some new lingerie I'd bought while he was away. I thought maybe a bit of romance would help bridge the gap between us. I took a deep breath, gathered my courage, and walked into his office. But when I entered, he barely looked up from his computer. "Not now," he said. "I'm busy." I felt humiliated and rejected. I retreated to our bedroom, changed back into my regular clothes, and cried myself to sleep. That's when I knew I had to find out what was really going on. It wasn't just post-vacation blues or jet lag. Something had fundamentally changed, and I was determined to find out what it was. While Tom was in the shower the next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked his emails. I know it's a violation of privacy, but I was desperate for answers. My hands shook as I logged into his account, part of me hoping I wouldn't find anything, another part needing to know the truth. What I found shattered my world. There were emails between Tom and his coworker, Sarah. Emails filled with intimate details of their time together in Thailand. Pictures of them on beaches, in hotel rooms, at romantic dinners. And the final nail in the coffin, e-bills from hotels they'd stayed at together. My husband hadn't gone to Thailand alone. He'd gone with another woman. I felt like I was going to be sick. My hands shook as I scrolled through email after email, each one worse than the last. They'd been planning this for months right under my nose. The solo trip was just a cover for their affair. When Tom came out of the shower, I confronted him. I showed him the emails, the pictures, the hotel bills. At first, he tried to deny it, but faced with the evidence, he finally admitted the truth. He said he'd been unhappy for a while, but didn't know how to tell me. He claimed he and Sarah had grown close at work and that the trip just happened. He even had the audacity to thank me for planning the trip, saying it gave him the opportunity to figure things out. I was livid. I screamed. I cried. I threw things. All the hurt and confusion of the past weeks came pouring out. Tom just stood there, looking guilty but not particularly remorseful. His lack of emotion only fueled my anger. I demanded explanations, apologies, anything to make sense of this betrayal. But Tom seemed to have shut down, offering only weak excuses and half-hearted apologies. In that moment, I knew I couldn't stay in that house with him. I packed a bag, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip it closed. Tom watched me silently, not even trying to stop me. As I walked out the door, I turned to look at him one last time. The man standing there was a stranger to me. I drove to my mom's place in a daze, tears blurring my vision. When I arrived, my mom took one look at me and enveloped me in a hug. I broke down completely, sobbing into her shoulder like a child. Through my tears, I managed to tell her what had happened. She listened, held me, and assured me that I could stay with her as long as I needed. That's where I am now, trying to process everything that's happened. I feel like such a fool. I spent months planning and saving for a trip that became the vehicle for my husband's infidelity. Every time I close my eyes, I see those pictures of them together, smiling and happy while I was at home, worried and alone. The past few days have been a blur of tears, anger, and disbelief. I've barely eaten or slept. My mom has been amazing, taking care of me and giving me space when I need it. My friends have rallied around me, offering support and distraction. But despite their efforts, I feel utterly alone. I keep replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Was he always unhappy? Did I do something to drive him away? The rational part of me knows this isn't my fault, but the emotional part can't help but wonder. I don't know what happens next. I'm hurt, angry, and completely lost. The future I thought I had has been ripped away, and I'm left trying to figure out how to move forward. How do I even begin to rebuild my life? Has anyone else been through something similar? Any advice would be appreciated because right now, I feel like my entire world has fallen apart. Update 2. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share where things stand now. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice during what has been the most challenging period of my life. Your words of encouragement and shared experiences have been a lifeline during my darkest moments. After discovering Tom's affair, I stayed at my mom's place for about a month. During that time, I went through a roller coaster of emotions, anger, sadness, self-doubt, and everything in between. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed, when the weight of betrayal felt so heavy I could barely breathe. There were nights when sleep eluded me, my mind replaying every moment of our relationship, searching for clues I might have missed. But with the unwavering support of my family and friends, I slowly began to heal. My mom was my rock, always there with a hug, a cup of tea, or just a silent presence when words failed. My friends rallied around me, providing distractions when I needed them and a listening ear when I needed to vent. I also sought professional help. My therapist has been instrumental in helping me process my emotions and rebuild my self-esteem. She helped me realize that Tom's actions were a reflection of his character, not my worth. Through our sessions, I've started to understand that I am not responsible for his choices, and that I deserve better than what he gave me. As for Tom, he tried to contact me multiple times during that first month. His messages ranged from apologetic to defensive to downright manipulative. One day he'd beg for forgiveness, promising to change and make things right. The next, he'd try to blame me for his actions, citing perceived neglect or incompatibility. I maintained minimal contact, only discussing practical matters through my lawyer. It was hard, especially in moments of weakness when a part of me wanted to believe his promises, but I knew I had to stay strong. Yes, I decided to file for divorce. It wasn't an easy decision, and it felt like admitting defeat at first. But as I worked through my feelings in therapy, I realized that staying with Tom would mean living with constant suspicion and resentment. The thought of trying to rebuild trust with him exhausted me. I realized I deserved better than to spend the rest of my life wondering if he was being faithful. The divorce process was long and often painful. Tom initially tried to contest it, claiming he'd made a mistake and wanted to work things out. But I stood firm. With the help of my lawyer, we negotiated a settlement. There were moments during the negotiations when the reality of what was happening hit me hard. Dividing up our shared life felt surreal, like I was watching it happen to someone else. In the end, I received half of our marital assets as alimony. This included our house, which Tom agreed to let me keep. It was a bittersweet victory. While I was relieved to have financial security, each negotiation felt like putting a price tag on our failed marriage. There were times when I wondered if it was worth the fight, if it would be easier to just walk away with nothing. But my support system reminded me that I deserved my fair share of what we had built together. Moving back into our, now my, house was harder than I expected. Every room held memories, both good and bad. The first night back, I sat on the floor of our bedroom and cried, overwhelmed by the emptiness. But slowly, I've been reclaiming the space. I've been redecorating, trying to make it feel like my own. I painted the walls, bought new furniture, and rearranged everything. It's helping, but there are still moments when I expect to see Tom walk through the door. As for my career, I threw myself into my work. The long hours I used to put in saving for the Thailand trip are now dedicated to advancing my career. I've taken on new projects, volunteered for additional responsibilities, and really focused on professional growth. My efforts paid off. I recently received a promotion, which has been a much-needed boost to my confidence. It's reminded me that I'm capable and valuable, both professionally and personally. I've also been focusing on self-care and personal growth. I've taken up yoga, which has been incredibly helpful in managing stress and reconnecting with my body. I've started learning Spanish, something I've always wanted to do but never found the time for. And I've even booked a solo trip to Japan for later this year. It's my way of reclaiming the joy of travel that Tom's betrayal had tainted. The thought of exploring a new country on my own is both terrifying and exhilarating, but I'm determined to create new, positive memories. Dating is still not on my radar. I know I need more time to heal before I can trust someone again. The thought of opening myself up to potential hurt is still too daunting, but I'm no longer afraid of being alone. I'm learning to enjoy my own company and rediscovering who I am outside of my marriage. I've reconnected with old hobbies, joined a book club, and even started volunteering at a local animal shelter. These activities have helped me build a new social circle and reminded me that there's more to life than romantic relationships. There are still difficult days. Sometimes a song on the radio or a glimpse of a happy couple on the street can send me into a spiral of sadness. I still have moments where I miss the future I thought I would have with Tom. But these moments are becoming less frequent and less intense. I'm learning to sit with these feelings, acknowledge them, and then let them pass. I won't lie and say I'm completely over what happened. The pain of betrayal runs deep, and I suspect it will take years to fully heal. There are still nights when I lie awake, wondering what I could have done differently, or days when anger at Tom's betrayal consumes me. But I can say that I'm stronger now. I've learned that I can survive heartbreak, that I'm resilient, and that I deserve love and respect. One of the most unexpected outcomes of this ordeal has been the strengthening of my other relationships. My bond with my mom has deepened immensely. We've always been close, but going through this together has brought us even closer. My friendships have also grown stronger. The friends who stood by me during my darkest moments have become like family. I've also learned a lot about forgiveness, not for Tom's sake, but for my own. I'm not there yet, but I'm working towards letting go of the anger and resentment. Not because what he did was okay, but because carrying that weight is exhausting. My therapist has been helping me work through this, and while it's a slow process, I can feel the burden lightening bit by bit. To anyone going through something similar, I want you to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It may not feel like it now, but you will get through this. Surround yourself with supportive people. Seek professional help if you need it, and be kind to yourself. Healing isn't linear. There will be good days and bad days, and that's okay. Trust in your own strength and resilience. As for me, I'm taking life one day at a time. I'm rediscovering old passions and exploring new ones. I'm rebuilding my life on my terms. And while I don't know what the future holds, I'm cautiously optimistic. I may have lost the life I thought I would have, but I'm excited about the possibilities that lie ahead. There are still moments when I look at that wooden elephant Tom brought back from Thailand. It sits on my bookshelf, a reminder of everything that happened. But instead of feeling pain when I see it, I now feel a sense of pride in how far I've come. It's a symbol not of betrayal, but of my own strength and resilience. I know the road ahead won't always be easy. There will be more challenges, more moments of doubt, more hurdles to overcome. But I also know that I have the strength to face whatever comes my way. I'm not the same person I was when I wrote that first post 6 months ago. I'm stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. Thank you again, Reddit, for being there during the darkest period of my life. Your support and advice have meant more than you know. Here's to new beginnings, to healing, and to the endless possibilities that lie ahead. Here's to building a life filled with self-love, authentic relationships, and genuine happiness. The journey isn't over, but I'm ready for whatever comes next.